Hi, welcome again to the show. I'm Jim Junot. Today we are at the Dominion Club in Glen Allen, Virginia, and my guest today is Robert A. Fiacco, who is the author of the new book, Showing Up to Play. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
Now, showing up to play, it's kind of appropriate that we are at a golf club here in Glen Allen, and the book is about life's lessons learned on the golf course and business lessons learned on the golf course. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It is. I took a number of analogies that I've learned in my struggles of trying to play the game, and it's a lot like the struggles we have in life, overcoming obstacles, overcoming fear, overcoming loss, and you certainly have a lot of that when you play golf on a golf course, and you have it in life. And I saw tremendous correlations between the two, and a book developed from it. It's not really a golf book; it's more of a self-help book, but it has a kind of a golf twist to it.
Yes, I remember, like in the prologue of it, or the introduction of it, you talk about an event that happened on the golf course where you lost a hat and what ensues afterward.
Yes, it's rather a funny story, as are most of the stories in the book. I actually, as I was finishing the book, I thought back how many crazy things can happen to one man in a lifetime on a golf course, but I've certainly had my share of them. My wife calls them incidents, and she says they only could happen to me. But I was playing up at the Homestead, which is a beautiful golf course, and it's very hilly, and it was a windy day in the early spring, and I wear this Panama hat, and it blew off, and it was heading towards the tree, so I took off after it, and I got it, I put it on, and I ran back to my car because I felt kind of silly. I wanted to move on. I jumped in the car, and my foot lodged between the brake and the gas, and what happened was it took off like a rocket, and it was about a 20-foot drop to the green below me, which I was trying to avoid, so I threw the wheel, and as I threw the wheel, it catapulted me out of the golf cart. So I go about 20-30 yards in the air, land on the green, made the green in one, which was nice.
You made the shot.
Yeah, made the green in one, and I bounced a couple of times, and I got up to make sure that all my parts were still in one piece, and I saw out of the corner of my eye the greens guys. There were 4 or 5 guys cutting grass, and they kind of were mortified at first. They stopped and they started running over, and they looked at me, and I kind of gave them a nod and a wave and laughed, and then they just busted out laughing. And I'm sure that they felt like they lost the $10,000 funniest home video if they would have had the camera out, because it was quite a scene. But what the point that I used in the book is, on the road of life, we're going to go through a lot of obstacles. We're going to get detours, and we're going to run into ditches, and we're going to get flat tires. And what do we do when that happens? I was sore and embarrassed. I could have went in and said, well, that's enough for one day, but I finished the round, and that's what we have to do in life, is we have to finish. We have to play every day and show up every day ready to play.
Now, millions of people play golf each day. Not all of them get the idea for a book from it. What inspired you to write this book?
My wife, mainly. We would have many of the stories that are in the book are very, very funny, and they're my wife, over the years, we would be out playing with some friends, and we'd get done, and we'd be in the clubhouse after having a drink, and she'd say, Bob, tell them the story about this, tell them, and they would laugh, and I would see people years later and say, Bob, I still tell this story about when you beat yourself up when you were learning how to play. And so she kept saying, Bob, you got to write a book, you got to write a book. But I never felt writing a book about myself anybody really would care about. What I have passion for in my life is to help and inspire others. I've had some physical challenges when I was a young boy that caused emotional issues that held me back in business and held me back in life. And as I started to learn the game of golf, it was a very big struggle for me. And I was able to see these correlations between life and business. And as those developed, what I did was I said, well, you know what, maybe these humorous stories and these morals can kind of fit together. So the book developed from that, and the rest is history.
When you first open up the book, you tell about the first time you played golf. Mm-hmm. You had 2 people who you knew, I guess?
Yeah.
From business?
Yep. Two friends of mine.
Yes, and you kind of let's say you were not Arnold Palmer when you first started.
No, I was not at all Arnold Palmer, and I'm still not. There'll never be another Arnold Palmer.
But have you broken 100 yet?
Oh yes, I've broken 100 a number of times. I've actually broke 90 a couple of times, but not on a regular basis. Not on a regular basis.
Do you remember the first time you broke 100?
Oh, I do. It was exciting. It was exciting, and you know, the funny thing about golf, as is life, I think, is when I did finally hit that kind of milestone for myself, I got done, and I said, well, gee, I played just like I always do. What happened? And then, you know, sometimes in life we go through life and we struggle, and boom, all of a sudden things happen, and we say, well, gee, what was different? And I think that in life we have to realize, as in golf, is you have to practice every day, you have to show up and do the job, and you got to be ready to play every day, and eventually you'll benefit, and you'll get better.
Right. Now, you how hard was it getting the book published? This is your first book, correct?
It is my first book. I never dreamed about writing a book, which is even odder. It was. I got about 40 rejection letters, and actually one of the rejection letters I got was very, very discouraging. If I could quote it, it said this, and it was from a major publisher. It said, if Muhammad, Jesus, and Princess Di came to you on a cloud and told you they would put you on Oprah's show, don't call us. We don't care. If you're a reasonably intelligent human being, you will understand that we're telling you don't write, don't call, don't email us again if we're interested in your book.
Gosh,
we'll contact you.
That's horrible.
Yeah, and this was a major publisher, so you want to talk about one thing about, you know, stomping on a man's dream. But luckily, I found my wife actually running into a gentleman whose wife was a little local niche publisher out of Roanoke, BQB Publishing. They've done a fabulous job walking me through the process, and they handle basically everything from A to Z for me, and they've not only published the book, but they've educated me on this crazy world of being an author.
I was going to ask you how you like the world of writers.
It's very exciting. It's very exciting, but I've realized that, you know, I wrote a book and nobody knows me. So now it's my job to get out there and promote the book and get people to enjoy it and hopefully tell their friends about it.
What was harder, writing or promoting the book?
Writing the book was a challenge for me because there were many issues in the book that I ended up writing about that I never could talk about. And they stem back to some of the challenges that I had in my childhood. And the editor that BQB had tied me with, she challenged me along the way to come back, and she said, Bob, they want to know more. The story's funny and your moral's great, but you got to talk more about yourself and the challenges that you've went through. So I would say the writing piece, I'm a marketer by nature, so the writing piece was the challenge for me.
I was going to ask you about that. I'm glad you brought it up because I didn't know if I could bring it up or not. You do deal a lot with your personal life in this book about what you've learned, and I was wondering how hard that was to put that into print.
It was very difficult, and you know, particularly there's a chapter in the book called Handicap, and I was born with a hip defect where my left leg was 4 inches shorter than my right leg, and you know, back in the 50s, people weren't politically correct, so you got picked on, but you know, I can look back at that issue in my life, and it stayed with me my whole life because I've had my hip replaced twice, my shoulder replaced once, and I can honestly say that challenge has made me who I am today, and it's a blessing to me in a lot of ways. But there were certain issues that came with me overcoming that obstacle emotionally that held me back in business a little bit. So it was very interesting for me to write the book. I think it's helped me a lot emotionally. It's been very fulfilling for me to write, and I think at the end of the day, I hope that I can make some people laugh with the book. I hope that I can help them with challenges they have in their lives and inspire some people to realize that the sun will come out eventually in your life, just like it will on the golf course on a bad day.
Bob Fiacco is the author. I thank you for being on my show today. The show is called the Junot Files. You can catch it on YouTube and also every Thursday at 12:30 p.m. on Comcast of Chesterfield, Channel 17. Forgive me, I'm fighting a little bit of a virus, but I'm glad you were...
Well, thank you for having me on, Jim. I appreciate it.
No problem. And that's it for now. Thank you. Bye-bye.